our next slide. We want to cover all these priorities and you might think that your institution and you are kind of willing and hoping to engage and support us on some of these priority science areas. For example, human nutrition, food safety, agroclimate science, or environmental systems and youth development. And you might think, how my institution fits in here. I have a smaller institution, I have a larger institution. The whole, I might not have, may or may not have a program in these disciplines, but all the basic sciences support this. So if you have a math class, or if you have an economics class, that will bring you into agribusiness. So if you have a chemistry class that you offer, that will bring you into water quality. So on and so forth. All these classes that you are teaching support these priority science areas. Next slide. We use a lot of acronyms at Nifa and actually the federal government. And here are some of the acronyms from RIIA to DEG, RIIA, AGFEI, DUNS number, AOR, and so on and so forth. One of the things we want to do at the end later on is share with you this presentation so you could use this as a referral and go back and look and read the presentation again, look at the acronyms and learn a little bit more about USDA. Next slide. What programs are we going to discuss? Well, at NIFA, we have 3 main programs directed specifically at the insular areas. The Resident Instruction Grants Program for institutions of higher education in insular areas, the RIIA, the Agriculture and Food Science Facilities and Equipment Program for insular areas, AGFEI, and the Distant Education Grants Program for institutions of higher education in insular areas. So these are the 3 main programs. Who is eligible? Next slide. Well, institutions at the insular areas that are public or nonprofit and 4-year accredited institutions of higher education that offer a certificate or degree program in agricultural sciences, again, at the insular areas. We'll be thinking, next slide. What are the insular areas? So here in this slide, what we have tried to do is list the 8 insular areas that are covered and supported by this program. One of the things, since I understand we have some guests from Agricultural Research Service, is to provide some information on the size of these islands. So as we try to work together, USDA and NIFA, with the insular programs, we could have an idea of the size of these institutions and think about the distance they are from the mainland. So the insular areas are Republic of Palau, American Samoa, Republic of the Marshall Islands, Northern Mariana Islands, United States Virgin Islands, Federated States of Micronesia, Guam, and Puerto Rico. And as we think about what kind of projects we could do or we could have, you know, some of us look at these great destinations for a vacation, but some of us call these places home. And we have our families and our communities there. So how could we help these communities move forward and get engaged in developing the ag and food systems at the islands? Next slide. Purpose of priority. Each program has a different purpose, the different purposes and priorities. In RIIA, for example, we're trying to strengthen the institutional education and capacities in the island in the institution, the libraries, the curriculum, the faculty, scientific instrumentation, delivery systems, student recruitment and retention. But when we move to AGFEI, what we're trying to do is acquire or renovate facilities and relevant equipment. And then when we move to DEG, what we're trying to do is strengthen the institutional educational capabilities to carry out education, but out of a distance. And resident instruction, curriculum, teaching programs in food and agricultural sciences. So one of the things that could happen in DEG, the institutions could work together to develop some programming so we don't have to repeat developing a class. Or we could engage in a similar research. But again, RIIA, AGFEI, and DEG, they still have the different purposes. So as you develop the application, keep that in mind. Next slide. Let's talk about the distant education program, exchange grants program. One of the things that is very important, and all future applicants, please remember the program code DEG and the Federal Domestic Assistance number 10.322. What you were wondering, how is this useful in the application? I have to highlight to you that this is very important because this tells the grants.gov program and system and the Nifa system that receives the proposal where to direct your application. For example, if you type DED instead of DEG, it might go somewhere, nowhere, and it will get lost in the system, and we will not know that you received the proposal. And I'm gonna mention this a couple of times because this is very important. The request project types for these, the DEG education and teaching projects. You could get up to $150,000 for a standard application, and you could get up to $30,000 for a planning activity. The grant duration is here from 2 to 3 years for the standard project and 2 years for the planning activity. The deadline is coming up. You got 2 months, so more or less, January 21st. And please make note that the deadline is 5 Eastern Standard Time. Again, what do we fund in DEG? It's equipment, acquisition of the necessary infrastructure. So if you need to retrofit a lab, a room to make a operational laboratory to conduct research, you could do that. You could develop the faculty to actually learn how to use the equipment and get ready to offer the next class, the class you're developing. Faculty development, faculty training in technological capabilities. I was talking, I believe there's some participants from Puerto Rico, and I was talking to someone and somebody mentioned to me, how did Nifa know that in 10 years ago that this will be essential? Right now, we are all going virtual and using distance education all across the country. And for you to have the ability to do this early and start developing your system, and the ability for this year to actually apply and get some funding to develop your distance education, it's a great opportunity. So how could you develop the project, implement the project using technology in the classroom, not only locally like we're doing now and in all the states, but maybe you could consider partnering with another institution outside of your insular area, your area or your island, and actually bring in more expertise to reach your students and community. Next slide. Again, the DEG needs area, curriculum design, faculty preparation. You know, how did I develop this class? And one of the things and the challenges we're having these days is how do I develop this lab to make it effective virtual? Because one of the goals of having labs is to have hands-on experience. Well, how could we take and make these laboratory effective while it's conducted virtually? Again, we could provide all things to support the students. What do we need? What do we need to do to make sure this education and the information and the learning happens? Next slide. Evaluation criteria. We have some suggested evaluation. For example, most of the programs are going to measure the potential for advancing the quality of education. This is how well your proposal answers the so what. What is going to change? What is going to improve if you get $150,000? The proposed approach and cooperative linkages. And here is where you actually write how things, what is your plan? Who is going to be involved? What is going to take? What are the resources? And you develop a plan and you present it for the reviewers. And they're going to be measuring how well you thought of these and making sure you have included all the components. Again, institutional capability and capacity building. What is going to happen after the project ends? Have we improved your ability to teach and your capacity to reach out to students? Key personnel, is the personnel, the appropriate personnel to be hired to make things happen, to teach the classes? And then the budget and cost effectiveness. How well are you using the money? Was it, will it be worth it to give you the money, or are you asking too much money for a specific concept? For example, the reviewers are faculty and administrators, and they have a good idea of how much things cost. So if you write an application and you put in for 5 computers at $5,000 each, they're gonna question, why are you using this money this way, and what kind of computers are you using? So be realistic on your budget and how cost effective you are. Next slide. The second program is the RIIA, the Resident Instructions and Grants, Resident Instruction Grants for Institutions of Higher Education and Insular programs. This is a whole long name. Here again, we give you the program code. Make sure you write, if you're applying to the RIIA, you write program code AA-Q. And make sure you make a note of the CFDA code. The other thing I wanted to tell you is you're still gonna have 2 types of projects. Standard for, and you could get up to $150,000, and planning activities up to $30,000. Again, the duration of these projects is 2 to 3 years for the standard, and planning activities up to 24 months. Deadline is February 18, again, Eastern Standard Time. And in this slide, remember the program code, the CFDA code, how much money you could get, how long you could have the project for, how long you should write your activities to last. And then the deadline at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this gets complicated in the islands because I know it's quite of a difference on the time. Next slide. Again, what do we fund at RIIA? Education, similar things. Education, economic improvement, diversity. We're trying to improve the diversity of the students. We want to make sure you get students in the insular areas educated. And this is in the classroom. Here, not necessarily we're talking about distance education like we did in the DEG. Next slide. Need areas, again, curriculum design, faculty preparation and enhancing for teaching, instructional delivery system, and some opportunities for the students. Next slide. The last program is the AGFEI program, similar code to the RIIA. They are together in the RFA, and you have $150,000 again for a standard grant, planning activity $30,000, same amount of time, and it has the same deadline, February 18, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Next slide. What do we find in AGFEI? Well, equipment and activities that require to retrofit the rooms, classrooms to actually put the equipment. And what we're trying to do is give you the ability to conduct ag research and support tropical and subtropical agricultural research. And that includes pest and disease research. Next slide. You could actually buy the equipment. You could actually have student experiential learning. And right now I'm managing, these are 3 of the 5 projects, grants programs I'm managing. And one of the things has been very effective. It's providing student experiential learning. Recruiting students, having summer programs for the students that get them engaged in the food and ag sciences and in STEM in general. Next slide. Evaluation criteria is the same evaluation criteria as in RIIA and DEG. Next slide. Applying for Nifa. And here, this slide answers the questions you might be asking yourself. How much money is available? Well, for AGFEI and RIIA, the funding for expected funding for 2021 is $1.2 million. And for DEG is $800,000. Thinking that conference grants are $30,000 and standard grants are up to $150,000. Next slide. Again, to find the how to apply, you could go to the Nifa website. You could actually view you could look for the RFA. And next slide. Here it's here's obviously you need to be registered in grants.gov and SAM, the new system. You need to follow our guidelines. You know, Doricela and I, we're here for helping you to do this. And again, you must submit the application to grants.gov and all forms must be in PDF. Next slide. And again, here is where we could think. I know we have some ARS, Agricultural Research Service employees in the audience, and they're trying to think, how could we interact and help these institutions? And what I wanted to do in a few minutes, it's give the opportunity for the audience to let me know what you have and how you would like to interact, you know, what your area of expertise is. One of the things the agency is doing is trying to kind of figure out what the islands and the administrators and faculty at the institutions that the islands want, to try to match them with the ARS employees and see what are the common interests. Here, as we look at the different types of projects, education in the classroom versus DEG, distance education, facilities and equipment. And we look at these programs. One of the things that comes to my mind is ARS have some expertise. What are the needs of the islands? And if the current project directors and people that are thinking of applying go to the chat and they write what the area of interest is, what they're thinking of. Maybe we could have ARS staff address it and figure out and develop a connection. Again, the different type of projects, different type of grants. We could have education in the classroom. We could teach the faculty. We could, take the students. We could buy some equipment with AGFEI, and we could have some distance education and teaching projects through the DEG. Next slide. One of the things, and it's in the chat, Brian Kappenhauer is mentioning, one of the things that as we develop these connections with ARS is that maybe the ARS staff could help you in the development of these applications. One of the things we had last year between the transition and all the things that have happened is that we didn't have a whole lot of application. And how could ARS and other interested people in the mainland could help you develop these applications, strong applications, and make sure you're a participant, active participant of not only one program a year, but 3 programs. And I understand one of the concerns we all have is that the deadlines are close to each other. But we have 2 months to work on these, 2 months and maybe and a half to work on these. But how could we, maybe at the end of this meeting, we could start having a dialogue of how could we get engaged, and the participants from the islands could raise their hand. I would like to have some help on this. If somebody will be interested, have similar interests that would like to work with me in a project. In my mind, I just got a hold of this program again. I used to work with a program in the past. I mean, when you think of distance education and you think about doing the research, all these areas are in specific beautiful places that could have and conduct research simultaneously in similar topics of interest, like soil, the salinity of the soils, the raising levels of water in the islands, many things, and pest management. What are the things that you need help, that you need to work on, that you could or should develop some research on to actually make things happen, collect the information we need to make educated decisions, and train the students and the community to actually address the needs, their needs. There's some funding. Let's go back to the funding restrictions because this is important. And I think these programs are complementary because RIIA doesn't allow you to actually use money for construction, building of equipment or endowment. AGFEI doesn't allow you for endowment, but it actually allows for the equipment and the construction. And again, DEG is also for education, acquiring equipment for distance education and distance education teaching and research extension, and actually integrated projects. So they complement each other. So it will be, and I would like to encourage you that you actually not only apply to one, but apply to the 3, because then you're gonna have the ability to teach in the classroom, the ability to get some money for equipment, and the ability to actually do some distance education. And some of the education could be via some experts on the field from the mainland, but that could be transferred via distance education. We could invite people to the islands to make things happen. All these things are potential activities. And we have a large universe of potential topics of ideas that we could carry out to help develop and get you all engaged in these funding opportunities. Next slide. Again, one of the things that I want you to all take at the time this year is to make sure you include all the forms, because there's some forms that are essential for the application, and if you don't include them, you might be disqualified for not including these forms. The other things is if you don't include all the forms, it takes a little bit of effort for you to get funded. So, you know, through this presentation, we're gonna make it available to all of you. You know, we have some list of the things that we need to make sure that are included, and they need to be in PDF format. One of the things that happens is the system doesn't read the forms if they're not in PDF. So we won't be able to even evaluate your application if it's not in PDF many times. Okay, next slide. The evaluation is as I was talking about, it's a two-part process. We screen the applications to make sure you meet all the administrative requirements set in the RFA. And one of them is a letter including that you are an insular area. You're in an insular area institution. You're an institution in an insular area. The other step again is the scientific peer review process. Next slide. Right now, if we could have, is Dr. Godfrey online?
Yes, I'm here.
Very good. So I thought one of the ideas, you know, I thought would be very, very helpful if we have somebody who has been successful writing applications. And Dr. Godfrey has been very successful at the US Virgin Islands. And we could see here he has received 5 awards, almost $1 million, or $750,000. So, and he has used these grants to work in his fields of expertise, which are reproductive physiology, cattle, sheep, and environmental physiology, a whole bunch of things, production agriculture, genetics, and sustainable agriculture. But Dr. Godfrey, could you tell us a little bit about your experience applying and participating in the Insular programs?
Sure, I'd be glad to. I actually got started with this back in when it first became available to the insular areas, and we were applying for these grants as a consortium amongst all the insular schools and working together to submit big grants, and we each have a sub grant within there to do some similar things and try and find similarities, and also do a little bit at our home institution that was unique to the needs we had. And eventually that model changed and we all started submitting our own grants, and the process didn't change as much. You still have to go through the submission, the review, and everything. And several of the things that Irma already said, you know, pay attention to the details within the RFA, what documents, what information is required, who has signing authority, how to upload the documents. We had one of our investigators did not convert all documents to PDFs, and his application got kicked out of the system. So he could, you know, he didn't even get to the evaluation stage. It got kicked out before that. So pay attention to those details. And also, those people at Nifa, they're your friends. They're our partners. Call them, send them an email, reach out to them. I've done that a lot, and they provide answers. They're pretty good at responding in a timely manner, especially if you let them know, you know, grant deadline's coming up, you need this information quick, but they're very helpful. I've reached out to them for different issues and different comments and different things over the years, and they've been very helpful in providing feedback as to how to move our proposal forward, or if we had issues with a funded proposal, how to deal with those things. So it's all worked out very well. Utilize them. They're a great resource. They're, you know, NIFA and the land grants are partners, and use your partners. And even in the other insular areas, reach out to the other insulars. I know there's a lot of people that have come and gone, and some may still be in some of our institutions who've had experience with these. Talk to them, see what they've done, see what they've learned, how to work through the system. It's not that complicated. It's gotten a lot easier over the years, and I like the web-based system. Pay attention to that deadline in that Eastern time too. I know we're looking at a wide spread of different times across our insular institutions, but pay attention to those deadlines. They can catch you off guard if you're not really paying attention. Because I know, like, it's 6 o'clock at night for me here in the Virgin Islands. I know it's tomorrow morning for some of you over in the Pacific Islands. So you have to pay attention to that when you're submitting these deadlines. But these grants have been a really good opportunity for the insular areas. We're small, we have very unique interests and needs, tropical agriculture, small bodies, small island communities, minority serving institutions. We don't fit with a lot of the big national programs, and just the crops and livestock and the things we deal with are very tropical. They're not, we're not growing corn and soybean and dealing with temperate issues. It's all tropical. We have a lot in common there. We've tried to take advantage of that over the years with varying levels of success. One of the big things we've done and had done for several years within the program, we hosted a summer internship for the students where they went to the different islands each summer. We'd have one institution hosted. So all the students from all the different islands got to see the other cultures, see the differences, similarities of living on an island. And it was always interesting to hear the students come back and tell the stories of what they saw and the friends they made that they still stay in touch with. So that's always nice. We're probably one of the only land grant institutions in the insular areas for years. We don't have an academic program in agriculture. So I was using the resident instruction funds to bring students into the research labs in the experiment station. They do a research project. They've worked in my program, animal science, our plant programs, our aquaculture program, our forage agronomy program. Wherever their interest was, we gave them an opportunity. They do a project, present it at meetings, both scientific conferences here at the university, international and regional conferences. Our faculty would take them there. Some of our students won awards for presentations. And even if they weren't really interested in agriculture, they kind of got a good feel for it and appreciation for it. And also, we taught them the scientific method, which goes across all disciplines. They learn how to design a research project, how to ask questions, how to answer questions, and interpret the data. We like to feel, there's so much information out there nowadays. You want your students to be able to filter through the good from the bad and see what, really look at it. Don't just take it on face value. Really look at information, consider the source, consider the context, and teaching them the scientific method, we think, really helps with that. Some of our students have gone on to advanced degrees. One of my students, was a veterinarian working for ARS in Alabama for a few years. So, they've had a lot of opportunities. I've worked on both RI and AGFEI grants. I was peripherally involved in a distance ed grant, DEG, back in the early days, but not as much. The RI that was the ones I really worked with for several years, and I turned that program over to another colleague here at the station, Dr. Tom Zimmerman, and he's taken it and really moved it forward too, as far as we're still mentoring students, but we're also looking at ways to provide them other opportunities, working with our cooperative extension service, taking tours of other institutions. We took a couple groups of our students to Florida to see the University of Florida's campus and off-campus research and education centers where they do a lot of tropical type of agriculture. We're continuing to do a lot of that and looking at ways to where we can really enhance the students' experience. We've helped students involved in the National Student Exchange Program where they could go to another institution, take some agriculture classes that we don't offer here. We're able to provide support for them there. I did have a grant one year. We were able to actually do just a hardcore, full-blown research grant, scientific research. We did one with my sheep. I had 2 students working on that. We did some grazing behavior studies, body temperature measurements. The students were involved from A to Z in that whole project. They did a really good job. And right now I have a grant in the AGFEI program to rebuild our cattle working facilities where we use for research, and also as we do get more student activity, they would participate in conducting research with the cattle and just learning how to work cattle. And so we're working on that. That's a current project I have. And Dr. Zimmerman, he has one for the RIA right now. The new one just started. So we're going to continue mentoring our students. And like all our little islands, hurricanes, typhoons, whatever you want to call them, they impact things. You know, that slows down what you do, but it also gives you opportunities to change directions and be creative in how you can meet the goals you're trying to do. We're still dealing with damage from 3 years ago. And so, you know, there's a lot of different things we do that these programs really help us. They give us that little sense of stability, I feel. We know that money's there for the life of the grant, and we can do things regardless of what else is going on. And it also, you know, you've got to do what you said you're going to do. You know, if you say you're going to do A, B, and C, make sure you do A, B, and C. And if you do D and E as well, all the better. You know, doing more is always good. You know, you don't want to overextend yourself, but, you know, if you can get more out of the grant and it leads to the other things. And, you know, over the years, like I said, we've developed our resident instruction grants. So each year we kind of move them forward, and you use that. You establish a base, but then let it grow and be creative and move things forward and build on what you've already done. Don't just keep doing the same thing over and over again. That's, you know, eventually that's going to turn around and you're going to say, wait a minute, we're just giving you money, you're doing the same thing. You just keep doing new things, adding new things, and being creative. And, you know, and feedback from the students that we've had in these projects have really helped us a lot. You know, we asked them, you know, what they thought of, you know, their individual research activities and how they thought the program was managed. And we get a lot of feedback. And we've changed things over the years to really help the students, you know, feel like they have ownership as well and use their guidance to move forward. And, you know, we also use them as ambassadors to go out and recruit students for us for upcoming years and semesters. You know, they had a great time doing while they're getting their degree here at UVI, but they got to work at the experiment station, and they tell their friends, and so they come by and they want to work with us at the experiment station as well. So there's a lot of good things you can do, just the word of mouth and, you know, throughout the community in your institution. But it's been a really good program. And I know Irma has hit on a lot of the points. Pay attention to the details. Attach your documents as PDFs. Make sure you're applying to the right things. You know, work with your grants office or the people in your institution that are responsible for submitting grants. Bring them on board early so they're familiar with the system as well. I know early in some of these we had issues with connectivity in some of the more remote islands. That was an issue. Now, hopefully things have improved, but bring the grants people in early so they know what's going on and they can familiarize themselves with all the requirements as well, so they don't stumble on something that can, you know, delay or, you know, penalize you in your grant submission process. Read the RFA, and again, call Nifa. They answer the questions for you. They're a great resource, and they want us to have the money. You know, they can't keep it. They want us to get the money, so they're going to do everything to help you get the money. They provide great information, great support, and they can point you in the right direction, put you in touch with the right people to answer your questions. You know, this has been a really good experience. Like I said, I was there when it started. I've seen it grow and change over the years, and it's really a nice program to have. It's ours. You know, we take ownership in it in the insular areas. This is our program. We want it to be there. You know, we fight to keep it there, get funding in it, and, you know, so don't be bashful. You know, if you have questions, you want to contact me, I'll be glad to answer them if I can. But NIFA, they're the experts on this stuff. They can help you out a lot. So utilize every resource you have is my big advice for this. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Irma.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Godfrey. So thank you so much for your point of view and giving us some information how to do well in the program. And it's true, we're here for you. You know, there's many things that we're trying, and the whole idea is how can we work together and be better. And you know, we're far, but we're very well connected with that blue thing that is called the ocean that we all like. So how could we use this program to bring us together? How could we use distance education to teach each other and of our challenges and how we're solving problems in even the mainland? And again, how could we get, you know, we have an offer from ARS to work with us and help us. How could we do activities that benefit all together or individually? could we do research that actually addresses all, do we have a topic that addresses everyone's interest, or do we have individual topics of interest? And on the chat, somebody asked if, how could ARS scientists interact? And maybe you could bring someone for a month or 2 months or a summer, or it might be all year summer, the way I see it, or their winters, to actually work with you in a topic, to help you and expose the students and your faculty to another expert in a topic, to work with you. Could we send students to the different ARS labs? Could we have the faculty come to the ARS labs and do research? Could we work and develop working relationships with ARS scientists to work on these other grants available at NIFA? There's over $100 million worth of grants in AGFEI. And we could work, develop working relationships between deputies in the islands to work with the ARS scientists and apply for these programs. So I think we have a very large number of opportunities here. And one of the things we need to do is raise your hands. Yes, I want somebody to work with me. I know Brian just mentioned that in the next few weeks, we're gonna be working to match the interest. You have an interest, you think you have an interest, let us know. But honestly, if you don't apply, we cannot fund you. You need to send that application. You need to put your best foot forward on putting a grant together. Some of you already have applied in the past and they stopped applying, but we want you to apply. We want you to have a grant and 1 or 2 grants from out of the 3. So, but we need to get those applications. We need to get you connected. Because you're in the island doesn't mean you're alone. We are here for you. We're here to support you. Again, thank you, Dr. Godfrey. And if anybody has a question, wanna raise your hands, wanna go on the chat, and Doricel, if you could let Pauline McFall, she was raising her hand. Go ahead, Pauline.
Oh, hi, Dr. Lawrence. Thank you, Bob. That was a great presentation, and good job on your work there in the Virgin Islands.
Thank you, Pauline.
Okay, so I have a question though. I know this question has come up before in past NIFA meetings in regards to the RIIA and DEG. A good portion of our grant is on professional development as well as scholarships for students to increase the number of people or students in the ag sciences field. And I know a lot of the issue that we have had in Americans, I don't know about other insular areas, is the availability of scholarship opportunities for those who are non-US. We have students who are residents in American Samoa, but they're not considered US nationals or US citizens. I know in the past there has been questions on being able for them to qualify for professional development opportunities as well as scholarship opportunities, but it hasn't really been addressed. So I just wanted to bring it out and see, what do you recommend or suggest for that particular issue?
Okay, that is a very good question. Thank you, Pauline. Citizenship, it's a very big issue, not only in the islands, but in the mainland. And right now, Congress is deciding who can get this money. And what we have done I work with HSI programs. What we have done is we have found nonprofit organizations and found some funding for those students. There's other programs out there that we need to figure out. There might be some of the AGFEI programs that allow for some funding to go to non-citizens. So we need to work on there. The other thing is we need to work. Okay, so we might have students that cannot qualify, but where are our students that do qualify? Why are they not interested? How could we bring them in? And I guess only what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna follow up on this issue with you via email. And I'm gonna ask the question to the higher ups, is there anything we could do? I'll talk to policy.
Oh,
But in the meantime, let's consider, what could we do with the high school, on the middle school? How could we get these students engaged into what we could do right now? One of the things that happened last year, we have very few limited applications. So those who applied, just about almost everybody got funded. I hate to say this, let's pretend I didn't. But there's some of you that have not applied for the program, or they apply, let's say Virgin Islands apply every year, but we need to hear from the other islands, and we need to get them engaged. How could we bring you into the project? Would you like to work with other the islands? Let's see what we could do in that respect. But there's a few important things on the slides I wanted to finish. If you're not a land grant, you must submit a letter signed by the AOR certifying that you are. Just make sure the project narrative is 18 pages plus additional 5 pages. Written in Times Roman, no smaller than 11 points, 1.5 space. And honestly, I want to move. I want to finish these slides and have a couple more. I want to see if you have certain topics or ideas, or you need help in something, or if you are in some institutions in Puerto Rico, they have a larger staff. And smaller institution, you're the scientist, you're the administrator, you're the one who writes the grant, and so on and so forth. So you might need some help, and you would like to have a specific topic. The island is having, a special problem that, let's say food safety, or water quality, and you wanted to do some work on that. Let's identify ourselves and move forward. Okay, you can go to the next slide. Let's see. This is very important, and just this year I have seen it happen more than any other year. When you apply, you work so hard to write this application over a month and get all this paperwork together. You convert it to PDF, you send it to us. You try to, type the right code. So it goes to grants.gov, you get a nice email, you're content because yes, I did it, I got my application in. There is another system that transfers the application from grants.gov to Nifa. And once your application is accepted by Nifa within the next 30 days after the deadline, you are supposed to receive a confirmation email from Nifa. So if you don't get that confirmation email, that means we did not get that application. And actually, you might not, your application might not be considered for funding. So one of the things I want you to do is make sure, don't call us right away, did you get the application? But, within 30 days, you haven't received that email, let us know, call us. Say, Irma, Doricel, You know, I know you mentioned that we were supposed to get a Nifa confirmation email, but we never got that. That means there's trouble in paradise. That means we don't have your application. Something happened within the connections of the systems. And, you know, we're doing, you know, this is distance about everything. So we need to work ahead, you know, be conscious of our timelines. Don't leave it for the end. Try to make sure, you know, you put your paperwork together. Start early, take advantage of the time. But honestly, I really would like you to apply. And I would like you to take the offer from ARS to come in and help you, you know, develop and expand a project that you may have, and start some working relationships, start some new partnerships. You know, you could bring the faculty to the States, the ARS scientists to the island, bring the students. I know we brought some students from Virgin Islands. We you know, bring some students from Puerto Rico, but from the other islands, send a couple of students somewhere that are interested, and those experiences might change their lives. Find the students where they are. You know, find them in the middle school, find them in the high school. Get them engaged, get them a summer internship, or AKA a part-time job. So get them engaged into learning into food and ag sciences. Let me see, next slide. I'm almost done. Let me see where I am. Another thing, you know, besides the earthquakes and the hurricanes and all the things that we have experienced, now we have COVID-19. So when you apply for the new grant, make sure you keep in consideration potential delays to COVID-19. And even during the actual implementations that the current grants that you have, please, if you are having problem implementing your project, let me know. If you have problems getting all your funds released, let me know. These things are important. We have some resources, Nifa coronavirus resources for our partners on the website. Look for us and let's make sure we could solve the problems. Okay, and I'm going back to the chat. I see the things things are starting to build. We could develop a list of all the contacts of the current grantees, and we could exchange that. And Fernando, I'm assuming that you're from Puerto Rico. You know, there could be a potential collaborator. I know at one time you had a consortium of institutions working together, and one institution led. So, you know, find somebody that could help you. Find somebody to work with. So we'll be happy, and Dorisa, please make a note of these, of sending a list of contacts to everyone of all the current grantees.
Yes, we can send to them with the PowerPoint in the same email.
Excellent. Okay. Why people interested in collaborating through web pages. The other thing is, you know, maybe within a week or two, we could do like a coffee hour, or we could have people talk about the different topics. If you send me topics that you want to talk about or interest, or what kind of partner you're looking for, and I think that's what Brian was talking about, doing this match. You know, if you want to mention it right now and talk about it for a minute, say, I would like to, or do it on the chat, I would like to work in soil salinity. You know, how to, you know, we have new pests in the island. I know what's it called? The greening oranges in Puerto Rico. That was a big problem. I would like to find somebody to work with me on this. But what are your tropical agriculture issues? You know, what are the common themes that you could all work together and use the DEG for? How could you expand your ability in your campus to reach out? And again, at the same time, how could you work within your community, the K-12 system to bring more students? You know, who could help you develop a class if you don't have to get started a program or a set of courses that will take you to develop a degree in agriculture? So how could we get the natives, the native species and the ones we use for medicine, the ones we used to grow locally, how could we work with that and develop a project? I know some of the islands have a water quality problem, potable water, access to water. What could we do to actually work on that all together? So let me see what else I have here. I think Brian's mentioning that we sent to ARS scientists a list of all the projects, and we're gonna do the same thing back. We're gonna send a list of ARS scientists with the contact information, so we could actually work that way. I'll be happy to mediate these collaborations. You know, if you type a topic that you are interested on, I'll be happy to develop a group that we could host you to discuss the opportunities. Okay, let me see, reading the chat here, question. And then, you know, you could, you know, talk to me. If you have a better idea, please, by all means, let me know. I think, you know, as long as we could keep the telephone going, we could have a conference call, and we could, I could get you started into gathering and emailing each other to develop a proposal. But you know, what is important is what are your interests? Because after all, we're trying to serve the islands. What is your interest? And we'll find you a match. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, and then if you have ideas here that that are not addressed by these Insular programs, we could help you identify another program that will do so. We could help you identify a grant program where you could find funding for that. And, you know, it could be, you know, it could be trying to think, you know, there's a program for K-12. And we could do K-12 education, because we might need to get the students from the K-12 ready to go and take the classes at the community college and college level. So, okay. So next slide. Let's see, where are we? Okay, there's other funding opportunities, as I've started to mention. There's the WAMS, Women and Minorities in Science and Mathematics. Deadline around in January. We have the SPECA, which is the Secondary Post-Secondary Education Challenge program. For those of you who have 4-year programs, Higher Education Challenge Grants, which is in March. So, and the whole idea is to get you started. You know, let's work on the Insular programs. Let's figure out what else is there, what other opportunities are available to you, and who could work with you on getting this done. Next slide. As again, Dr. Godfrey Mency, University of Florida, I'd like to mention University of Puerto Rico, Florida International. Who is nearby? There's, there's some universities in California that would be ready or willing to work with you. Talking about upcoming events, December 9th, we have another webinar. This is applying to Nifa competitive education grants as a small or mid-sized institution. There's other opportunities, a lot of funding. Professional, let me see if I could get here. Professional Development, the PDAL, Professional Development Agricultural Literacy Programs that, it's to develop more professionals in agriculture and develop the literacy within the community. So there's other fundings, and maybe what you're trying to do doesn't fit in within the Insular programs, but this other webinar will tell you about many, many other programs. I think there's that are available at Nifa that you could be part of. Next slide. Let's see what. The other thing is, because we're doing many panels online, you could volunteer to be a reviewer. Send me an email with your CV, resume, and it helps you understand what happens to your proposal when a panel or a reviewer individually looks at it, and it gives you some insights of what to do and what not to do when you're writing your application. It also gives you the opportunity to network with Nifa staff and other researchers and educators. So, if you want to be part of the panel, one of the panels, please volunteer, send me your CV or resume. I'll be happy to move that forward to the pool of candidates. Next slide. Okay, any other questions and any other comments? And please use the chat as a way, you could raise your hand, use the chat, and let us know what you're thinking. What you thinking, what you need, and how could you we could help you, and how could you move forward? What is, let's work together in removing those obstacles. And I know some of you do multiple things in your institution, but look around, who could help you? Who is that person? Do you want to invite a graduate student to help you? You want to invite an AI scientist? You want to invite a faculty from another institution? So with that, any other questions, any other comments? Okay. Any questions from ARS? You could raise your hand or type on the chat. Okay. I see Suresh, is there anything you want to say? You want to address the group?
Thanks, Irma. It's a good seminar, good opportunity to talk to the Insular area stakeholders and to our ARS colleagues. This is an important opportunity. Nifa has many grant programs that can be used to address stakeholder needs in insular areas. We are there to help. We are your partners. Like Dr. Godfrey said, we are there to help. Please feel free to get in touch with us. I also want to thank the ARS colleagues and also Brian, who is here. Brian, do you have anything else to say to wrap it up?
Well, thank you, Suresh. I'd like to say to the everyone here and the ARS scientists particularly, that, again, in the next few weeks, we've got a list of kind of maybe a preliminary list of what some of the interests of some of these institutions. And so what I'll be doing is I'll reach out to the national program leaders at ARS to identify those programs that match with these programs. And then we'll be contacting those scientists at ARS to find out if their level of interest in working with these groups. And if they are interested, we'll simply put the two groups together and they can start discussing collaborations. Now, those collaborations can range from anything from students coming to labs to full-blown big money AFRI projects. And so there's all sorts of possibilities here. I do believe there is interest at ARS in working with these institutions, and this kind of a webinar just helps introduce you to them, because I'm not sure that they knew that there was this opportunity. And so I'm going to encourage them to take advantage of that opportunity, and we'll see where it goes. But you know, collaborations are built one-on-one, and they're built with scientists talking to scientists. And so our job is simply to put the scientists together, let them discuss what their interests are and how they can collaborate. And I think we'll see some great things out of this in the future. So thanks to everybody.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And as the last words, and as I get ready to close out, I just want to say, if any of you has an idea, what is it? Think a big idea, like think big or go home idea, where all these insular islands, all these beautiful islands and their institutions and their faculty and their people could work together to develop a project that they could be better understood and better have the ability to better solve their problems together in a coordinated effort. I'll be happy to move that forward, promote and connect you. So if any of you have any great idea that you think it's a little bit, big, let's see what big is, how big is big, and if it doesn't fit in the Insular programs, let's explore together other funding opportunities at Nifa. So with that, if you don't have any other comments, I would like to thank you for your participation, and we are planning another webinar, and I think it's the beginning of January. It's the 11th of the 12th, where what we're hoping is from now to then communicate and develop ideas and start writing these applications. What I expect to do in that webinar is answer questions and help you complete and submit a complete application, an outstanding application that it would be likely to be funded. So thank you again for your time, and I appreciate you participating. I look forward to working with Dorisel and the rest of NIFA staff to help you do a good job in not only what you do in teaching the students, but in getting involved in supporting our priorities at USDA. Well, thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.